Welcome to the Women's Wellness Authority Body Literacy Series, a special 3-part conversation designed to help women understand their bodies and help the next generation never have to say, I wish someone had taught me this. Most of us were taught about periods, but very few of us were ever taught how our bodies actually work, what our hormones are doing, what a healthy cycle looks like, or how to understand the signals our bodies are constantly giving us. Through this series, we're changing that. Together, we'll learn how to read the language of the body, understand what it's trying to tell us, and explore how we can pass that knowledge on to the next generation with confidence instead of confusion. So come join me. Welcome back to the Women's Wellness Authority Body Literacy Series. In our first conversation, we learned how to observe our body's natural signs. Today, we're taking the next step, understanding what those signs actually mean. So welcome, Julie.
Thank you. Hi, Diana.
So before we dived into all of the menstrual cycle and the woman's body, I'd love for everyone to get to know you a little bit better. Can you tell us about your background and what led you to do what you do today?
Yeah, absolutely. So I first started tracking my own cycle almost 11 years ago with symptothermal fertility awareness from Toni Weschler's book, Taking Charge of Your Fertility. And I started doing that after the birth of my first child. In 2014, I experienced an unplanned pregnancy and an even unplanned motherhood. I was in adoption counseling throughout my pregnancy. And after he was born, my OB recommended a copper IUD. I had never been on birth control before of any kind, and I wasn't super excited about it, so they recommended the copper IUD. But after about 3 months of using it, I became incredibly sick. My health declined really rapidly. I was more fatigued than usual, and I lost about 30 pounds in that 3 months. And it wasn't just postpartum losing weight. I had severe anxiety and panic attacks. My digestion suffered, and I had the IUD removed right away when we figured out what was wrong.
What was the IUD?
So it was copper poisoning. I had the copper IUD and had copper poisoning. Now, that's not incredibly common. My body was more susceptible to copper poisoning because I have chronic illness already. I didn't know at the time. So the rest is history. After I got it taken out, I was given Toni Weschler's book by my trying to conceive sister. And then I read it and used it for contraception rather than for trying to conceive like she was. So it completely changed my life. It transformed me as a human being. I've been charting my cycle ever since then. And though my career has gone in all kinds of different directions, this has been consistent for me for over a decade. And then I decided to become certified to teach it because I found myself always telling other women about it. And until finally I realized, I think I just need to go down the path and get the certificate and teach. So that's what I did.
Yeah, and you're so incredibly passionate about it. Like, I left our conversation just to prepare for everything we're going to talk about, like super charged up and so much more comfortable talking about things that when I went and talked to a girlfriend, she was like, ooh,
Like, you got spicy.
I was obviously so much more comfortable talking to you about it, and hopefully it makes me a little bit like more courageous to talk to my daughter and shift that. But we'll get there. We'll get there.
Yes, we'll get there.
So I think it's such an important point because many women are never really taught about how their cycle works. So you were having natural conversations and educating them, and then you realized, like, I'm passionate about this and I want to do this more. So Julie, why should women care about understanding their menstrual cycle beyond simply just knowing when their next period is coming? Because I'll be honest, that's pretty much how I've lived my life. Most of the stuff you're going to talk about today, I honestly did not know. So, okay, continue on.
Yeah, no, it's so our menstrual cycles are actually communicating to us all kinds of things about what our body is doing, how it's actually managing. And if we have a healthy menstrual cycle, the body is letting us know that it's feeling balanced, safe, nourished, so much so that it's prepared for us to do one of the most challenging things that we will ever do, which is to conceive and carry a pregnancy.
Yeah.
So it's not that we always want to, it's not that we always will. And in fact, in the grand scheme of things, we rarely ever do compared to the number of times we don't.
Yeah.
But we can. So even if we don't want to conceive, we should always want to have the ability to do so, because what that means is that we are feeling balanced, safe, nourished. We have enough. We're satiated. And in fact, so satiated that our body has enough to do the quote unquote extra because our sexual and reproductive health and hormones are totally optional. It's the only system in our body that's optional.
What do you mean by that optional? Like, because it's our choice, relatively so, whether or not we conceive a child.
Well, there is that, but on top of that, our body is always going to prioritize our survival. It's always going to prioritize for us to have at least the bare minimum that we need to survive. Because we don't necessarily need reproduction for our personal survival, it gets put on the back burner. Our body will prioritize other hormones and systems before it prioritizes creating sex hormones. So in order for us to create sex hormones, we have to have a foundation of health laid, or else we won't ovulate. We won't have smooth, even periods and cycles because our body isn't nourished enough to provide that extra service, quote unquote.
Yeah, interesting. I've heard that your menstrual cycle is considered like the vital sign. Is that why? Because that it's giving all these signals about your overall health.
Yeah, so exactly. Lisa Hendrickson Jack, I think, coined that phrase that our period is the fifth vital sign. She's amazing. She's an incredible fertility awareness educator. And it really is, because if we were charting our cycles and looking at the bio data every single day, we would be able to see insight about our thyroid health, about our adrenal health. We get a little bit of insight from our other notes that we take, not necessarily our menstrual cycle bio data, but from the notes that we take with it. And I do a pretty in-depth intake questionnaire. So there's a lot of information that comes through with cycle charts on my end as the educator. And
When you work with clients, you mean like
when I work with clients, we can see all kinds of things that come through just based on the cycle. And sometimes it's reproductive related, like PMOS,
formerly known as
formerly known as PCOS,
PCOS,
formerly also known as MRS, metabolic reproductive syndrome. That kind of got overlooked in the media. But PMOS, endometriosis, endometritis, all kinds of things, luteal phase deficiency that we see right there. It's telling us right there. And then when we get those things assessed and we know what's going on reproductively, we can then take another step back and say, well, why are we having X, Y, or Z reproductive health symptom? What's causing the luteal phase deficiency? Do you have hypothyroid that's causing it? Okay, well, things cause hypothyroid. So like we keep stepping back, but it
peeling
starts
the onion down. But the first signal, the vital signal,
is our menstrual cycle and what she's doing.
wow, I'm so interested to dig into my own issue. Maybe we'll pause there and get into that. But I've had something that I cannot solve. And I've done a lot of different things. It's somewhat getting better, but I was just told I'm perimenopausal, but I know it's been happening for 6 years. So it's
The classic answers. You
yeah,
must.
oh, you're getting older. Like I am getting older, but I also shouldn't have my period every 2 weeks. Something's off and I know it, and we've tried to figure it out. We can't, like multiple people in the alternative space. So anyhow, we'll maybe dig into that either privately or later in this
Oh, I would be curious to hear more about it. Absolutely.
Okay, so one thing I don't think many women realize is that we're not hormonally the same every day of the month. And there's actually traditionally 4 distinct phases, though you told me there's 2.
So I'm excited to dive into this with you.
Yeah. So can you walk us through maybe why standard medicine says 4 and why you're saying 2?
Yes. So, in fact, standard allopathic medicine has always said 2, follicular and luteal. But recently, like in the last several years, the internet decided to throw in menstruation and ovulation as their own phases of the cycle. And they're
Internet.
I know, you're like, what's going on? But there's 2 phases, follicular and luteal. And within the follicular phase is when we get these events. Menstruation is an event, but it's in the follicular phase. And ovulation is an even shorter event, but also in the follicular phase. All of this fun stuff happens when we're follicular, and then when we're luteal, things quiet back down.
Well, that's a little bit more easier to understand than having to track. So if I think about, okay, I want to educate myself more about these phases, but then they're 4, and then I see posts about exercise in this one, don't exercise in this one, exercise in that one, eat this food in that, and I'm like, Okay, I can barely like eat a meal on a daily basis, right? I'm not going to be able to track the 4 phases within 28 days or whatever, how long your cycle is. Like that to me is too extreme for me.
It sounds like a
So 2
lot.
is better.
And the cycle syncing, honestly, like you were talking about which foods to eat and which workouts to do, there's some science there behind that. The problem is we're not all the same in these
Mhm.
different phases, and we're treating menstruation and ovulation, especially ovulation. This is very silly. We're treating it like an entire cycle phase. It's actually a singular moment in time. The
Mhm.
event of ovulation is very
Like
quick.
a day, isn't it?
It's just a moment. The follicle ruptures and the egg releases and we're done. It's just that the egg can survive for about 12 to 24 hours. So we think of ovulation as this day-long event, but once she's been released from the follicle, she's out and about. She's there for 12 to 24 hours, but the whole event of ovulation is just that bloop, just that moment of rupture.
So let's maybe go back to the follicular. Am I saying
Yeah, let's start right at the
follicular
top.
phase? What is happening during this phase? How long does it last? What hormones are playing a role?
When our cycle begins, right on cycle day 1, that's the first day of red flowing blood. So not spotting, that's pink or brown, nothing tinged, but red flow is our cycle day 1. And it's also the first day of our follicular phase.
Okay.
So in the follicular phase, our dominant hormone is estrogen. So it's an ovarian hormone, essentially. It keeps our body cool and it creates watery secretions. So we'll notice cervical fluid in this phase of our cycle of different quantities and qualities as we reach greater level of fertility. But estrogen gives us that cervical fluid. Estrogen also raises our energy and lifts our libido. Now, the reason that's not happening during our period is because our period is not its own phase, but its own event that's isolated kind of from the rest of the cycle. During our period, our hormones are absolutely zilch, low, nothing's happening. The estrogen's not online, progesterone is not online, hypothalamus and pituitary aren't sending any signals to the ovaries to do anything because we are simply releasing.
I was gonna say,
That drop in
like,
hormones,
discharging what's no
mm-hmm,
longer serving us that month because we didn't procreate.
because we didn't procreate. So that hormonal flat line is what causes us to bleed.
Hmm.
Usually once we're done bleeding, that is when hypothalamus starts saying something to pituitary. And then pituitary starts saying something down to the ovaries. And the ovaries start producing estrogen. So I'm getting very technical, but they're receiving FSH, follicle stimulating hormone, from pituitary, which means that they are growing follicles. Follicles being stimulated, follicles growing, follicles release estrogen. So now we're online. We're full on follicular
This is like after you've had the bleeding.
after we're done bleeding. For some people, we do get estrogen coming online at the end of bleeding, but not everybody. Sometimes we're finished bleeding, then estrogen's coming online after we're done. And at that point, the estrogen is starting to work her magic in our body, lower that basal body temperature, make that cervical fluid and make it watery and fertile, and also change our energy, change our libido. And this looks different across the board for women depending on what their health is, but that is essentially what estrogen does. So it's starting to make us fertile with follicle growth and cervical fluid production.
Now I have a question. So many products that we use on our bodies on a daily basis mimic estrogen, right?
Yeah.
I forget what they're called.
We have phytoestrogens from food and
Yeah,
xenoestrogens
phytoestrogens,
from
like,
hygiene products.
and so when you're putting these on your body and they're mimicking estrogen, what is like regular estrogen in your body doing? When it's like, it looks like a distant relative, but we're not related, like, what does it do?
It acts a lot like estrogen in our body. It's just that sometimes this is a good thing and sometimes this is not a good thing. So it's usually more of a good thing when we're getting the phytoestrogens from foods. And for some people, this is a great boost and we can use that because our own estrogen is lacking.
Okay, so the phytoestrogen is good, but what I'm talking about is not.
Yeah. So on the other hand, the xenoestrogens, this can be bad because this is synthetic and man-made.
Yes, synthetic was the word I was using. Thank you.
There you go. Yes, I went too far with xeno and phytos. Synthetic estrogens, the xenoestrogens from products, mimic estrogen, but they take the place of our natural estrogen, and we can have some displacement, and it's actually causing an overabundance sometimes of estrogenic symptoms or qualities in our body, and it puts an extra load on our liver, which is doing a tremendous amount of work creating the building blocks for hormones and then metabolizing hormones before they're excreted. So if we're putting a bunch more estrogenic substance into the mix, our liver is very tired, is essentially what the problem is with those.
Yeah, because they can't get rid of the toxins as much as if you had your natural estrogen, because your body's designed to process that
Right.
versus these xeno.
And our body knows how much estrogen to make typically. As long as things are functioning well, our body knows how much estrogen to make. So when we're overwhelming it with synthetic estrogens, we're giving it too much to do. And our liver is already doing so much. I think it does over 500 functions in the body, and our sex hormones obviously are just 2 functions, creating and metabolizing, and probably more that I don't even think to teach about.
But like you said before, your body's main job is to keep you alive. When all these other things come into play, your hormones take the back of the bus, because it's going to work really hard to make sure your heart's pumping, make sure you can breathe, like the key things. And hormones always take a back seat, which is, I guess why when you have symptoms on that side and you're in a hormonal imbalance, it is a good indication that all these other things have been going on.
Yeah, causing that backup to happen, causing the buildup or the deficiency on the other hand. Something's draining you or something's backing you up.
So in this follicular phase, how long does that normally last for? What's typical, like how I should feel during this? Like, am I more tired? Should I rest and nourish my body more during this? Or am I like Energizer Bunny, like rearranging, organizing everything?
In a textbook cycle, not everybody's experiencing this. It's about 14 days. For me, my follicular phase is usually 11 or 12 days. It's a little bit short. This cycle was 16 days, so it fluctuates even within an individual.
And that's why we track, which we'll talk about in another episode.
Yes, which is why we track. But textbook cycle will be about 14 days long. And during this time, things will even fluctuate within this phase. Like you said, during menstruation, for a lot of people, they're feeling like they need to rest and they just want to rest. I think they should, if that's how they feel. For me, I get a burst of energy with my period. It's in the 2 days before that I finally have learned, oh, this is the day I need to ask for help. Not on my first day of blood, because on my first day of blood, suddenly I'm like, oh yeah, like my jeans fit well. Let's do some stuff. But not everybody's like that.
Yeah.
So what's really important is that you pay attention, because you might be the type of person in your follicular phase who gets that very textbook, very stereotypical estrogen boost, where you're feeling social, vibrant, energized, productive, excited. The women who get that are typically the women who are in a state of balanced hormone. So they're not having too much estrogen where they're really tired and bloated and feeling yucky. And they're not in a state of deficiency where they might also be tired and feeling yucky. They're in a place of balance. So when they get that estrogen online, again, very textbook. People are so different these days because there's so many more health concerns these days chronically. But traditionally, that estrogen is making us feel sexy. There's more libido. There's more desire to be creative. Now, whether you're being creative by procreating or you're being creative by making a new workshop for your small business or doing an art project with your children or planning a homeschool lesson or planning a PTA fundraiser, you are creating, because estrogen is a hormone that creates. And in fact, estrogen is so creative even in our body. Estrogen grows follicles. Estrogen too much grows cysts. It grows fibroids. It grows tumors.
Oh, interesting.
Estrogen grows things, and we see it in how we feel because we begin to create in our lives something.
Oh, so interesting.
Isn't it
So
cool?
estrogen is the grower.
The grower.
Okay, how about the luteal phase?
So once we have ovulated, so once we have released an egg from a follicle in the follicular phase, as soon as that egg has either reabsorbed back into the tissues or has met our friend sperm. And I was like, he's so cute. We have to show him. After something happens with her, after we ovulate and we move forward, that follicle that has ruptured, is open now, comes together and creates a brand new temporary endocrine gland called the corpus luteum, or the luteal body. And the corpus luteum produces progesterone.
This is with sperm or not with sperm?
With sperm or not with sperm, corpus luteum brings on progesterone. If sperm did meet egg, this progesterone is building the lining and keeping a pregnancy alive until the placenta is made after the first
Which
trimester.
is why I've heard, even for me at the beginning of my pregnancy, my progesterone, that's why they check the progesterone levels, right? Because if they're raised, that means that human's forming. And if
Yeah.
it's the levels are lower, because I remember my girlfriend's levels were low, they then helped and provided progesterone, and pregnancy sustained itself when it was at risk.
Yes, because we can see that on a chart too. If your progesterone looks low, but you were trying to conceive, we might want to support it, but also we might not. Once we confirm the pregnancy on the chart, progesterone might just click online and you could be fine. But yeah, progesterone is either what's keeping that pregnancy going if sperm met egg, or on the other hand, it's just building that lining. If the egg had been reabsorbed back into the body, it's just building the lining, creating coziness, thinking if we had conceived, we're going to build things up really beautiful. Of course, we usually don't. So,
And that's what's happening in a little luteal phase. So this, what was this called again?
the corpus luteum, I love that, the hand motion.
The corpus luteum is working hand in hand with progesterone.
It is producing our progesterone.
Okay. So now if me, Diana's corpus luteum, progesterone is low, that was one of my issues. What's happening?
So it would mean that that corpus luteum is weak. And there are different reasons that the corpus luteum might not be as robust as we'd like. Typically, it's because the estrogen was not as robust as we would like. So if it was even able to reach a threshold for ovulation to happen, that follicle was not very big because estrogen could not grow it. So it became big enough to ovulate, but it was small. So now in our luteal phase, that small and weak follicle is not producing a lot of progesterone, and we'll see it in how we feel. We'll see it in our cycle because we might have spotting before our next period, or we might have our temperatures on a chart begin to drop prematurely, showing us that progesterone is not doing what it's supposed to do. The opposite of estrogen, it keeps us warm. It makes our cervical fluid thick or dry, not watery and fertile, but acidic, because sperm don't like acidic environments. So it's very acidic, it's very thick, it plugs up the cervix if it's even there because it's very dry stuff. And then progesterone also is the opposite of estrogen in our response to it, that we might feel the desire to rest, nest. Internally we're nesting, we're preparing this lining for a potential conception. Outside, we might be doing that too. We might be Now we're cleaning and organizing, but we're not really sure why. But we're more inclined to get our chores done. Why is that? Or we're feeling less of an invitation to feel sexy with our husband or, boyfriend, partner, whoever. But we're just not in that place physiologically. Physiologically, our body is thinking, rest, prepare, go inward. And if we have the ability in our professional life and our personal life to allow ourselves to go inward, this is a pleasant time. It's like they say about weather. There's no bad weather. There's only bad clothes. You won't enjoy rain if you're not in rain boots or raincoat or have an umbrella.
I've never heard of
And
that.
you won't enjoy hiking if you wore flip-flops. You won't enjoy the beach if you wore a parka. You won't enjoy your luteal phase if you're trying to do all the stereotypical luteal things. Tons of work meetings, tons of social events, tons of workshops, tons of PTA. You won't enjoy being luteal. You will say, why am I so irritable? And I have so much PMS and I started spotting. Well, my friend, the most simple thing you could do is this intervention, which is just to listen to the body and say, do I want to do all these things? No. Okay.
Okay, then don't.
Then don't. Am I obligated to all of them? Oh, I'm not? Only to some? Okay, let me do the ones I'm obligated to. Some of my obligations I can pass off to a partner or a friend or an older child,
Or just say no.
or just say no. If I don't have to do it for some reason, I can just say no.
So I want to talk about symptoms, and maybe this is where I can kind of share what's been going on with me, and then we can diagnose, or you can not diagnose, but you can share maybe some insight on what's going on. I think there's many women who start wondering whether what they're experiencing is normal. And so what are some common symptoms women experience throughout their cycle within these two phases? I feel like we've kind of talked about that a little bit, but then what's abnormal?
There are a lot of symptoms that are common, things that I would consider to be normal. So it might be normal to be tired on the first day of your period, and it might be normal to have some cramps. I mean, your uterus is literally contracting to release the lining. So we're cramping a little, totally normal. We're tired because our body's doing this completely other separate function that it isn't doing any other time, where that takes energy and calories, and it is tiring. And I think women think it shouldn't be. But it is. So there's some level that we should recognize of fatigue and cramping and even irritability, because think about when you give birth, your uterus is cramping and you'd like to be alone. Why would you like to be alone? Because oxytocin is a hormone of being alone. It's a privacy hormone. We do things that release oxytocin in private. We have sex in private. We kiss in private. We give birth in private. Well, our uterus is using oxytocin to contract during our periods too. So for us to want some private time is completely natural. And all we'd have to do is know to ask for it. But a lot of times we don't. We aren't sure what that message is that we're getting. And we're just like, I don't know. And
Yeah,
so we,
don't want to be around people.
right, just don't want to be near you. Leave me alone. It's like we come off as really irritable, but maybe sometimes we just want privacy because we're tired and we're in pain. Our uterus is contracting. All of those things are definitely normal and common. It's when we're having pain that's lasting several days that a couple of ibuprofen don't knock out, that a hot water bottle or Epsom bath doesn't knock out, that you're really like wearing the jeans hurts because the
Yeah,
cramping
you're
is so severe.
bloated.
And we hear that often. We hear that commonly, but that is not a normal thing that should be investigated. We should get curious about what our body is saying when it's saying that. And the same with our bleeding, because we do want to see robust blood. We want to see red. If it's a little darker, great. We want to see that. We don't necessarily want to see clots, but some clots are normal. People experience them, they're well. It's when we see we're having that dark red for a couple of days. It's syrupy, like the dark and delicious maraschino cherries, not the bright red gross ones, but the dark ones.
Yeah.
That syrupy, and for a while. If we're bleeding for more than 7 days, that's a message that don't shoot the messenger. It's not your cycle's fault. Your cycle's just trying to tell you something's going on. So it's that super heavy and a lot of clotting that we're looking at that as what's going on. And the opposite is true too. So if you're so happy because your period's only 2 days long and it's super light, it's only pink, I never have to wear more than a panty liner. Well, I have news for you. Like that might not be good, especially, women in their later 20s. I hear that a lot. Oh no, my period's great. No pain. It's only 2 days, super light. We want to have a baby in about 5 years. I'm like, not to be rude, but you might not have enough nutrient rich lining to sustain a pregnancy if you're not bleeding enough. So there's a spectrum of amounts. And if we are deficient, that poses an equal amount of challenge to either be well and feel our best and have optimal hormone balance in our bodies, or for conception, if you want to conceive one day, you'll need a little more. So both sides. And then of course, PMS is the same. Having a little irritability or feeling a little more hermity and you want to be alone is good and normal. But when you feel very intense emotion like despair or anguish or rage, or obviously this is quite intense and extreme, but some women do experience suicidality before their
Mhm.
periods. That is PMDD. And that, I believe, now this part's opinion, physiological and mental health condition. That is a twofold problem, and you need to get help immediately if you're feeling those intense emotions. So I think sometimes women are made to believe that, oh, I'm just PMSing. I always feel intense rage before my period. I always feel despair, but it will pass when I start bleeding. I don't know.
Maybe it's like that now, but where is that gonna be in 5 years if you're not listening to the signs and,
Right, it could keep getting worse. It's not good to overlook that if deep down you know that you are making excuses for it. Like, I'm always that way before my period. That's not good. I said for years, well, I've never sweat. I just don't sweat. I'm just that kind of person. I work out, I don't sweat. I don't know. It's just how I am. No, it isn't. It's autoimmune disease causing your detox pathways to be at literally clogged. You should sweat. I sweat these days. It's true, you've gotta really learn what the language is, and then when you know what the language is, you can respond back.
Mhm.
But until you know that, it's just like, "Oh, yeah, it's normal," but a lot of those things are not normal. They're not.
And what about spotting before?
Oh, good question. So, spotting before the period, if you're spotting 1 day before your period, I might say that's fine, depending on what the rest of your cycle is telling us. If you don't have other symptoms, fine. But typically, spotting before a period, women are spotting 2, 3, 4, and some women in my practice are spotting a week before their period. This is a sign of very low progesterone, very weak ability to keep the lining together. We can't keep it together without progesterone, so it will disintegrate early and start to release without it being a full-on period and death of the corpus luteum. It's just that that corpus luteum is not robust
The
enough.
slow death.
Yes, a slow death where it's like, "I am struggling, I'm trying to tell you I'm struggling, please help me," and then yeah.
So that's my problem.
Oh, I'm so
Spotting and then a regular cycle. Then it was for like 2 years, just so heavy, like never experienced that in my life. Like maybe when I was a teenager or something. It just didn't make sense to me. And I saw acupuncturists, functional doctors, and my cortisol was messed up. My progesterone was low. And then when I finished work with them, my testosterone, which we didn't talk about at all, my testosterone tanked. I've been doing like a raspberry tincture. And that is obviously when you do stuff on a more holistic side, it takes longer because it's like
yes.
slowly repairing. And I, by the way, had no other symptoms, no cramping, slept fine, not overly irritable. It was just my cycle.
That's so interesting with the spotting, but you're right. Herbs are a long game, but red raspberry is toning and strengthens the muscles of the uterus. So I could see that as being
Yeah.
helpful.
But I do have like a wild yam essential oil. I just need to go back and I wonder if that will just on top with the raspberry, just kind of put them back into line.
I think that could be helpful, and using that wild yam in some organic castor oil and massaging the womb or doing castor oil pack over the womb and over the liver too at different points in your cycle. I think that there's ways that you can help mitigate it, but I am so curious about that that I would have more questions if I could have more questions. We'll have to do
Yeah,
some
we'll have to.
time to talk about that.
Okay. Well, this kind of like segues into my next question, which is about how can women who maybe you listen to this episode and saying, okay, I'm going to start listening. I want to know more about the tracking, which you guys can check out the other episode about cycle tracking. I'm going to start listening to my body and recognizing what's happening. How can I then support myself more naturally? Maybe some of the things like I was just talking about. You mentioned Epsom salts. You just talked about castor oil. I talked about raspberry. I know raspberry leaf tea can be very supportive for women. Wild yam, whether it's cream or I use an essential oil, but can we talk about some natural approaches to helping some of these symptoms? And then I know there's some key things that really could be huge drivers in helping adjust the body after listening to all the different signals that we could be listening for.
For general care and some benign ideas that you could start doing that aren't going to interfere with anything or could not make anything worse, but could definitely have the potential to make things a lot better. As far as herbal recommendations go, red raspberry, like you said, is fantastic. You can drink it throughout the entire cycle. You can drink it throughout an entire pregnancy. It's not going to put you into labor. It's going to help strengthen your uterus, which you want the whole time. So red raspberry is great. Alfalfa and nettles are also both great because they're incredibly mineral rich, and our
Mm.
cells need those minerals to make us feel optimal. Our reproductive organs need the minerals.
Alfalfa and nettle tea?
Alfalfa and nettles.
Okay.
And you can get a lot of great dried herbs locally. If you're in Charlotte at Wild Hope Farm, they have their herbalist Sarah is fantastic and makes some wonderful blends. But if that's out of reach, Frontier Organics on Vitacost.com has lots of great organic loose leaves. You can get alfalfa and nettles there, or with mountain rose herbs for a very similar price point. But red raspberry, alfalfa, and nettles are huge for women's wellness. If you are an anxious person, oat straw is also great, or they also call it milky oats. But oat straw is really good to use for that. So is lemon balm. But as far as herbs go, those are some of my favorites. As far as some practices that you could weave into your rhythm of your life and your day, like I mentioned, the castor oil, I love it. I have a Palma Christos organic roll-on because it's not messy. Castor oil is so messy.
Oh
But
my gosh, I don't, and it is so messy.
yes,
Perfect.
it's messy, but the roll-on is great. And you can, before bed, I have an organic cotton shirt that I only wear with my castor oil because it's gonna get
Yes.
stained. And I'll roll the castor over my liver under my right breast, or I will roll it all over my womb. So from the pubic bone that you can feel on your mons, maybe up to the belly button if you're feeling like you want full coverage, but maybe halfway through, like to the underwear line, or if you're a mom like me and you have a little pooch line, right up to the pooch line, that castor oil, roll it on and go to sleep like that. You wake up supple and hydrated so you're not still sticky as long as you didn't put on a ton. You don't need a lot. But the castor oil can be really, really
You
helpful.
don't even use a castor oil pack or anything.
I don't even add heat at this point. I just
Oh, I don't
roll it.
have heat, but I have a cotton pack that I put castor oil on and I'll apply
Gotcha.
over.
I used to do also with linen, and this is even just because I needed something even more streamlined for my nightly rhythm with littler kids. Roll it on, organic cotton shirt.
Yep. Yeah, because it definitely
It'll
stays.
soak in a little, but that can be so helpful for all kinds of period issues. Over the liver, it's going to be able to help our liver repair overnight. So to
Mhm.
help us metabolize and send hormones to excretion if we are overabundant. And then over the womb, it's helping the womb to really fully be able to release. So it's promoting blood flow to those organs. It's promoting our release
And
during our
then
period.
when should you wear the roll-on or the pack? Like, is it all the time?
You could do it anytime, really. If you're going through a lot of challenges, you could go ahead and do it nightly. It's pretty benign. Or you could do it 3 times a week. I would say, though, for most women in the follicular phase, you would want to put it over liver,
Okay.
and in the luteal phase, over womb. And for some women, they find the opposite is better. So it is really all about
Just listening.
listening. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So those are good. The Epsom salt baths are good. Pro tip, Costco sells the plain Dr. Teal's for like $6 and you get 2 big bags. So I'm always stocked up with Epsom salts for baths, doing that before my period. After my period, I have more symptoms in my follicular phase. So I like to do those in my follicular phase before I ovulate. Everyone will be different, but that can be helpful. And then some very simple, like if you're in an immediate acute situation where you are having the bad cramps, your period's here, you didn't do the things before, but now you're like, darn, like help me out. Black pepper essential oil or peppermint essential oil topically right on top of the
Black
pain.
pepper.
Black pepper.
Ooh,
And
I had black pepper and never knew what to do with it. Black pepper is also good for addictive behavior.
is
So
it? Well, it's so interesting.
this is what I've read. I'm not a cigarette smoker, but if they're trying to quit and you could put a drop of black pepper on your tongue and it's
Oh,
supposed to help with the craving. Again, I don't have
like
exact
that.
direct I
Mhm.
don't smoke cigarettes. So,
I
but I've had people try it and I've heard testimonials that it helps just take the edge off.
That is so cool because I feel like with pain relief, it's a similar, like it's taking off the edge and it does a good job. So with period cramps, it's great. I used it during labor on my back because I experienced back labor and put it on my back and it was very helpful for me. So those two, great. Or I love salon paws. They're so great. You could cut them into smaller pieces, the salon paws. There's sticky patches. They're originally, I think it's a Vietnamese formulation of essential oils and menthol and camphor, and you
Okay.
stick it on. It's great. It's so great. So you
We'll
could
have
cut
to
it
put a
into
list
small
together of
pieces.
all these things for everybody. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. We'll have a little period hack list, but that can be transformative if you are in a moment of really severe pain with period cramps. So
How does stress affect the menstrual cycle? Because we didn't really talk about that too much.
everybody is always talking about stress and they're always being recommended by doctors and practitioners to lower stress. And the reality is we can't really.
Yeah, you're like,
Like,
think.
okay, that's crazy because I can't. But we can build our resilience to stressors by working with our nervous system. I'm sure you know all about those kinds of things. But, there's two kinds of stressors that I will talk about in terms of our period. So there's acute stressors and there's chronic stressors. So when we're acutely stressed, when we are transitioning to a new job or a new home, or we have an illness, or our children have an illness, and it's a lot to go through, or we're traveling, so even a positive acute stressor, but those are the stressors that come and they're intense and then they go
Big
away.
presentation at work, but then it's
Yes, big work presentation, even like, yeah, your car breaking down, those kinds of things. We have this moment of intense stress. The moment could be a week, could be 2 weeks, but it's a moment. And then we pass and it's not bothering us anymore. And then we have the chronic stressors. So if you have chronic illness, an autoimmune disorder or a connective tissue disorder or a latent infection within your body or a abusive relationship or a job that you've been working for 7 years and you hate and it's incredibly stressful, but you have to keep working it to pay the bills, or you had a neglectful childhood, or those things that are chronically putting stress on our body, they show up as two different things in our cycle. They present differently on a chart and with symptoms that we might see. So with acute stressors, we are noticing that delayed ovulation.
Mhm.
Maybe we'll have a delayed ovulation, but then we'll still ovulate and we'll probably the next
That's
cycle will be fine.
I remember reading about this when I was trying to get pregnant, that stress is a huge factor. It's delaying because your body thinks that you're being attacked. So it's deprioritizing reproduction and focusing on making sure that your body is like breathing and then that you can run away from the danger. So it's deprioritizing that because right now it's not really that important to reproduce. It's important that you
Exactly.
stay alive.
And what it really does is within our body, so our liver is using cholesterol to make all of our hormones. Our organs take up cholesterol from the liver and create all of our hormones, not just our sex hormones, but all kinds of hormones in different places. And when we are in times of acute stress, we prioritize cortisol because cortisol helps us to get through stressful times. But when we prioritize cortisol, we are not prioritizing estrogen.
Mhm.
And so that will delay ovulation because we can't grow those follicles robust enough to ovulate without the estrogen to do so. So exactly right.
Right.
Exactly right. We're in fight or flight for whatever reason that we just named all those acute stressors. We can delay ovulation. We might also notice that our body's temperature is warmer in an acute stressor. I'm not exactly sure the mechanism behind that. Sometimes we have a physical illness and we're warmer. I'm not sure the mechanism with other acute stressors, but we find that people are warmer and we find, of course, less cervical fluid because we're not having that estrogen. And we find fatigue or go, 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 on the other hand, anxiety. But when we're having chronic stressors, it's kind of an opposite situation because at this point, our body's been trying for so long with the cortisol to sort this out and it hasn't been successful that it can't anymore. It's not making that same amount of cortisol because it's exhausted. So we find cooler body temperatures because the body overall is run down.
Mhm.
It cannot be even warm enough, perhaps, to get a ball rolling. So we might have no ovulations. We might have cycles with blood, but not periods. So we might not be ovulating at all. Or on the other hand, we might be still ovulating, but we're very deficient And we'll see that in signs like we talked about earlier. So,
Yeah, I think I'm a recovering chronic stress victim.
yeah, right,
So
right. I'm
all of
recovering.
that played a role in, I think, also my issues because I was estrogen dominant, even though I've cut out all products, low progesterone, high cortisol in a chronic state. Okay, what about sleep?
Sleep is a big one. So, sleep interplays with many of our hormones, of course, not just our sex hormones, but the big hormones with sleep are serotonin and melatonin. Serotonin we get from the sun. So, this is a big circadian rhythm conversation, which I have with a lot of my clients in my practice. It's important to get sun as much as you can throughout the day, but especially when you first wake up, so that you're getting serotonin online. Because if you didn't, guess who's not coming at bedtime? It's her buddy, melatonin. So we need them both to balance each other out, just like estrogen and progesterone. The thing is with sleep that we tell people that is so important is that we're also not producing the melatonin if we're not in complete darkness. So that's usually my first intervention when we're dealing with sleep to improve the menstrual cycle. Are you sleeping in complete darkness? Why, yes, Julie, I am. Describe to me the complete darkness. Well, I turn off the light. I use a blackout curtain. This is not complete darkness. Here's why. Most of us, so I'm in my bedroom now. It's also my office. I have a printer in here. I have a computer. I have a monitor. This is not an ideal situation for sleep, by the way, listeners. If you have space to not have an office in your bedroom, don't do it. I'm just in a small apartment though, so this is our situation. But take electrical tape over any little light that shines within your room, whether it's a power strip or a light on your printer. Unplug the damn thing, turning off the devices at bedtime too, because the EMF at bedtime is not good.
Yeah.
So you can unplug your Wi-Fi, or if it's corded, even better. But all of these little lights, so your alarm clock might make a light if you still have one. Wow, I'm living in the 90s. But you could put a black towel or napkin over it. We put a black napkin over our thermostat. It's out in the hallway, but we sleep with the door open. So I put a black napkin over that because we can see the light.
Well, any source of little light
Any
does
little
that.
light. The blackout curtain is great. We use a very thick, hefty black trash bag over our window to make this accessible and affordable for anybody to do. You can do that, but there will be cracks of light. So you'll have to shove that bag right into the line of your window or put little towels or something to get those cracks of light. Then you will be producing that optimal melatonin, be getting restorative sleep, and restorative sleep is going to help your liver to rejuvenate, which will help your cycle overall. And on top of those benefits from sleep, this is such a woo-woo word, and everybody, I lose them at this point, but there's no other word for it. We call it lunaception. And if we sleep in the total darkness, but our cycles are not optimal, or we're not ovulating, or we suspect we're not, we can sleep in total darkness and open that window during the days that we would expect ovulation to be happening for 3 or 4 days. And this can actually help our body to do so, introducing light at certain times. So that can be helpful for the trying to conceive crowd. I know we had talked about this during our prep call too, but it sounds woo-woo for human beings. But farmers who raise chickens do this for their chickens to lay more eggs. And what is an egg but a chicken who's ovulated? So the sunlight works out in the natural world. It works in our homes too.
Yeah. It's so full circle to me too, because it's like going back to evolution S type stuff, like our bodies were designed to work in certain ways. So you're just reconnecting people back to probably what was the norm, which now may be viewed as woo. I don't think it does. If you want to create and have a baby and you're struggling, you will do what it takes, you know?
Oh, yes.
You'll take that extra sun and the garbage bags and eliminate all the lights and all the things. Just in closing, I have one last question.
Okay.
So if there is one thing you wish every woman could understand about her menstrual cycle, what would it be?
Just one. So this will be hard, but this is going to be the corniest, cheesiest. But your cycle is your friend. Your cycle's truly your friend, constantly has your back, constantly trying to communicate information to you that you should be listening to, constantly giving you the clean bill of health if you are in such a situation with your health, or letting you know otherwise. It's providing built-in rhythm to your life that so many of us claim that we don't have because we're so busy, but we have it built right into our physiology to have rhythm. So it's
Mhm.
happening around us in the seasons of nature. It's happening around us in the cycles of animals and weather and the moon. And it's happening in our bodies. There's a built in mechanism of
Yeah,
rhythm.
I
And
love
you
that.
can choose to listen to that and rest when you're tired or bleed when you're bleeding, or you can choose not to. I just think knowing first what you might be passing up on can help you make the right decision on what way to go. I don't want to be facetious. I was specifically referencing using the pill to cover up the menstrual cycle itself. So,
Yeah, and all the symptoms that you're
and
having.
all the symptoms, but everything else that's magic that goes with it.
Yeah, I just did a presentation the other day talking about like reconnecting with yourself. And at the end, I just end with simply like, you don't need anything more. You have everything that you need. You just have to listen.
It's so true.
So that's my parting words to everything you shared. But
I love it.
so, Julie, after all this great education, if people are like, I'd love to work with her, I want more information, what is the best way that they can reach out to you or interact with you?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram. I'm the Cycle Lady, and that's also my email address, thecyclelady@outlook.com. I'm very old school, so emailing me is like my number one way. But if you go to my website, thecyclelady.com, you will also find right at the top of the page that you can get a discovery call with me, and that's always free.
Okay, awesome. Here's what I hope everyone takes away from today's conversation. Your menstrual cycle isn't just about your period. It's a monthly report card for your body. And the more we understand what our hormones are doing and how our bodies communicate with us, the better equipped we are to support our health, to advocate for ourselves, and work with our bodies instead of against them. Because understanding your cycle just isn't about hormones, it's about understanding and reconnecting with yourself. To everyone listening, if this conversation resonated with you, share it with a friend and share it with someone who you think might need to hear this information. Follow the show, leave a review, and as always, stay curious, stay empowered, and most of all, stay well. Thanks, everyone.
If today's conversation left you feeling curious about your own health, inspired to make a change, or simply wanting to reconnect with yourself, I'd love to support you. At Women's Wellness Authority, my mission is to help women reconnect with themselves through health, healing, and community. Whether that's through a restorative sound healing experience, a one-on-one energy alignment session, or the educational resources I share, my goal is to help you better understand your body, regulate your nervous system, and create sustainable wellness, one small step at a time. To learn more, explore upcoming events, or find the next step that's right for you, visit womenswellnessauthority.com. Please note, the information shared on the Women's Wellness Authority podcast is for educational and informational purposes only and is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease or replace medical advice. Always consult your qualified healthcare provider before making changes to your healthcare routine.